I said in the beginning, we were working on passing as well. Our knee cut, very user-friendly, very sort of effective pass at all levels of Jiu Jitsu. White belt all the way to black belt, very effective. We're now going to look at another guard pass tonight. This is going to be the long step. The long step is another very effective pass. The long step itself is actually not a very common pass that beginners get taught. We feel like it's a very good pass. It's one that you can base a lot of your passing system on. And so we wanted to demonstrate it with you all tonight. This long step pass is one of the main tools of some very high-level academies. Art of Jiu Jitsu, their competitors are very well known for utilizing the long step. One in particular, Tynan Dalpra, he's the middleweight world champion, two-time world champion. His long step is like the premier long step. That's the one everyone looks towards. Even Gordon Ryan has gone on record as talking about how good the long step is. So we want to understand just what the long step is all about and see how we can actually combine this with that knee cut that we did on Tuesday. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to kind of fast forward a little bit. We just broke out of the guard, and now I'm here. I'm tasked with passing his guard. Again, conceptually, I'm going to look to access levers on his body to allow me to turn his guard away from me so that I can box his hips in and then control the top position. So last class, we talked about using our knee cut. So I created inside position. I used my knee to start to cut down and pass. Now, when we're first learning how to use the knee cut, our partner may not have a very strong guard. So you may start to encounter some false positives of the knee cut where just literally any time you start to do this, you're just going to cut through their guard like butter and pass, and that's great. But as you start to roll against higher leveled guard players, you're going to encounter a really strong reverse de la Riva. And a reverse de la Riva is just, all we do is we use the inside leg to hook. Now this makes a very difficult dilemma. I can't continue my drive down to the mat because his leg is hooking on my thigh. This is extremely common as a deterrent to the knee cut. So here's what we're going to use as our starting ground today. I just broke out of his guard. I'm going to set up my knee cut as we did last class. So I'm going to start to push his leg down. I shuffle. I'm going to place my knee right over top. And now he's going to be hooking his shoelaces right on my thigh here. And now look how we can just kind of float in this position, okay? This is a good staging ground for passes now. From here, I'm maintaining knee cut pressure into my opponent's guard while I'm also able to set up a different avenue of attacking the guard, either by continuing forward, by passing on this side, or what we're going to do today, the long step, where we pass over the guard. I'm going to demonstrate the long step slowly, and then we'll break it down. Looks like this. So this is the long step. This pass sees us going over and through the guard. Most commonly, a lot of the passes that we learn in the beginning are things like leg drags, toreandos, things that take us around the guard. Again, here, we're going through and over. So again, we're starting here in this reverse de la Riva position. I need to be very light and mobile in this position. If I'm hunkered down strong and I try to make a big, strong move, you're going to have a lot of difficulty hitting this pass in actual live training. Okay? So I want to be able to be mobile here. So I should be able to kind of move side to side. This side-to-side movement also helps to disguise the entry into the long step. Now let's talk grips first. I need two forms of grips, upper body and lower body grips. My upper body grip for right now is going to be a collar grip. I'm going to reach for the bottom collar, and I'm going to grab. I don't want to grab too deep. I also don't want to grab too short or too shallow. Now, when I grab this collar, this is managing distance between the two of us. I don't necessarily want to pull him in towards me here. I want to make sure that I keep his body in the same place where it's originating, right? I want to keep him kind of locked out. My other hand is going to be lower body grip. This lower body grip, I can go for a C grip on the ankle, or my preferred method, a pant grip here. So I'm using a rock climber grip, no thumb, right down here on the bottom of his pants. We can even do our long step similar to how we did the knee cut, utilizing that hand and hip frame. However, for right now, we're just going to go for the pant grip down at the bottom. Again, my hands are in position. I now want to make sure that my head and shoulders are below his knee. Okay? If I'm tall up here like this, now I'm dropping from a very great height, and it's going to be difficult for me to consolidate and get in between his knees and elbows. Because remember, that's our goal when we're passing. Our goal when we're passing is to open up the knee-elbow space and insert our body right here. If I can insert my body here, now I've gotten around his guard, and I can pin the hips down. So again, starting here, I get my grips, I get my head and shoulders low. Now I'm going to use a half circle motion to extract my leg from in between his legs. Because if you notice, the only thing that's still in his guard is this right leg here, the one that's resting on top of the reverse de la Riva hook. So what I'm going to use is a half step motion where I'm going to drop my hips to this side as I start to turn my body and get my hips above his shoulder line. So the movement itself, the long step movement, is one that we break down into three main pieces. First, our knee and our elbow touch the mat. Next, as my hip starts to touch the mat behind the elbows, I'm going to start to extract the leg. So I touch my hip on the mat, and I extract my leg. And now the final piece is going to be our tripod, where as soon as I've extracted my leg, my head is going to go right to his stomach, and my head is going to help keep his hips pinned. My hips should be a little bit higher than my shoulders. I don't want to go too tall. Obviously, I'm very off balance there. But also, I need to keep weight on my opponent's body. If I'm just sitting here, nothing's preventing them from turning in and resetting guard, or turning in and wrestling up on top. So I want to ensure that my head is driving down into his hips. Now, from this position, we'll talk about the finishing mechanics in a little bit. So again, this kind of looks, it almost looks sloppy, right? We're kind of like jumping and throwing our hips over top of the guard. But the movement itself is a half circle movement as I pull my leg out. Now, a lot of times when people see long steps, they want to do this and like throw that leg over big time. That's unnecessary, okay? The more I start to lift that leg up in the sky, the more he can start to trace it and track it with his legs and shift my center of gravity. And now that could obviously end very poorly. So what I want to do is I want to just graze the mat with my toe to extract my leg. Just graze the mat with my toe. So we're here, head low. And I come up. Now, before we start to move in and practice this with a partner, I'd like to just talk about finishing. Finishing is very simple. All we need to do is just connect our hips to our opponent's hips. So I'll show a very easy way to do this. Same grip setup, head and shoulders low. Remember, I'm mobile. See how I can move easily. Elbow and knee touch. My hips go away from him. Notice again, I'm scooting my hips above his head. If I say perpendicular here, he drives into me, he comes up. So I want to make sure that my hips go up high. And now, I come up here to my tripod. Now to finish, look, I'm going to start to drive this leg the other way as I start to get my hip connected to his hip here. So thinking back to our passing concept, I'm accessing levers to turn his guard away so that I can box his hips in. Once I've attained the top position, I'm ready to solidify and control the position. All right, guys? Let's break this down one more time from a side profile view. So again, to start, we're going to be on our feet. I'm going to choose a side. As I go to that side, notice how Coach Seth is in a very strong knee-elbow connection. He's in a good, we call it cannonball position in the kids' class. His knees and his elbows are basically up touching his chest. I'm going to move to one side. I go to my knee cut position. He just hooks his shoelaces right on my thigh. I'm going to get my grips. Collar, bottom of the pants. Head and shoulders low. That's getting my head closer to his stomach to get to my tripod. And now look, guys, I'm going to go elbow and knee touch. One. As my hip drops, my leg comes out. Notice how I'm keeping my head close. Okay? I should be looking at his legs when my hip has hit the mat. So that way I can start to address and push either one of his legs. If this leg's coming in, I can start to block this leg, or I can keep the hand grip here, keep that leg away from me. Now look here, guys. I'm going to start to come up, keep that tripod as I come in and finish in hip to hip. Let's see that from a rear view. Nice and slow without talking. Here we go. Again, once I'm in this position, I'm in a strong passing spot. I'm in side-side control, ready to start to move into other attacks. We're going to talk about frame battles after this, what to do when our opponent's creating a strong framing reaction, how we can move ourselves around that framing reaction, and finish the long step again. I'll demonstrate one more time. If anyone has any questions, let me know. We'll do it from this angle. Again, look on my hip, click, right towards his hip. Okay, solidifying the top spot. Any questions? Alrighty, guys, take your time. I need us to really focus on slow and controlled movements. Like I showed, you might want to try to do this and like throw your body into it. I really encourage you not to train like that. Okay, move smoothly between each step. Okay, I shouldn't hear like when you're practicing this. You shouldn't be hitting the mat. Everything should be super soft and quiet. So again, if I'm here, good tripod, finishing in side-side control. Okay, guys, any questions? Let's try it out. 1, 2. All right, any questions so far? This is a very unorthodox feeling guard pass, right? It feels kind of strange to do this because it feels like you're falling. It feels like you're making a mistake. And for all intents and purposes, you are, right? You're falling and you're kind of making a mistake. You're dropping onto your side. We don't want to do that in jiu-jitsu. However, again, we're doing this so that we create more range of motion with our leg to be able to pull it out. So a couple things that I was noticing. Let's make sure our head positioning is really good in the beginning. I saw some people who are starting, and like I said, if you're starting up high like this, that's a long drop to go through, okay? Look, there's way too much space between the two of us. So when I start my long step, I want my head like here. Okay, right underneath his knee. Now my head can go right to his stomach very easily. I want to go to the stomach so I can keep his hips pinned. Now again, as I start to do my long step, everything's nice and smooth, okay? I'm mobile in the hips. I go 1, 2, and look how I'm keeping my hips above his shoulders. And so now from this position, I start to build up into my tripod. Here's a little hack for you, and just never let go of these grips, okay? I promise if you maintain these grips, it's going to be very difficult for your opponent to start to create any meaningful amount of space. I'm controlling his head, I'm controlling the upper portion of his body, and I'm controlling the lower portion of his body. So don't let go of these grips. Even when your opponent's fighting and they're trying to reset the guard, just manage these grips strong the whole time. Let's look now, finishing up with a quick frame battle. So I'm here. It's without a doubt, your opponent's going to be pushing you away, okay? Especially if I get these grips. He's going to be using his hands to push my body away. So obviously, if I just long step right from here, his hands are going to be strong, and way too much space. He comes up on top. So look what I'm going to do, guys. Just like we talked about on Tuesday with the knee cut frame battle, I'm going to disengage my body from the frames, change my orientation to the frames, and then intersect his knee-elbow connection. So to do this, look, I'm going to drop to this knee first as I move away. Now, as I perform the long step, I'm going to dive my head back in between and come up. So I'm moving away first, I long step, and then my head is like a heat-seeking missile right to his stomach. Once more, I'm here. He's pushing me away. So look, I just drop to this far knee. I move my hips away from him. So now I've disconnected from his frames. He can't reach me this far away. He's not Mr. Fantastic. So now as I perform my long step, here, I start to get my head underneath and in between his arms, and I can start to come up into my tripod. Okay, guys, so let's try one more round of drilling this, and then we'll get into some live training rounds. Does anybody have any questions to finish? Alrighty, guys, nice and slow. Okay, let's get it. 1, 2.